Nation. We're back.
Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Okay, so we're in Mexico, so we're doing it from the laptop, different than the full computer. So just trying to figure out all the buttons. It's the same screen, but it's just putting it on the laptop changes it completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're in Mexico because we do the annual girls trip the second weekend of December, usually around that time, because after championship weekend and football season, it's kind of a little break. The team's on a break. We're kind of on a break, so we get to come down and have some fun with some friends and eat way too much.
Way too much. We eat our body. But you know what? Look, I don't feel guilty about the Mexico calories because we walk so much and we do so many things that I'm just going to count it as a wash.
No, I don't worry about the calories. I'm just saying we've been going and going.
Yeah,
so we have lots to talk about. Huge awards went out last night to Texas Longhorns. We'll talk about Johnny Barron winning the Thorpe Award, right?
Badass.
DBU is back.
DBU is back.
DBU is back. That's huge. I mean, not only do they have the number one defense in the country and the number one secondary in the country, when you get the Thorpe, I think like we talked about, CB, was the Thorpe settle it?
Yeah.
So CB joining us here. Will the Thorpe settle it? Let's talk about that today. All right. So the DBU is back. Kelvin Banks will celebrate his accomplishments with those awards. Some feedback we've seen some of the players talk about, celebrating each other.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of wrap up the SEC championship game and do a little SEC talk. Their awards went out. All SEC awards went out. The schedule's released, 2026 Longhorn schedule's released, which is pretty awesome. We'll talk about that. Playoffs are set.
Playoffs.
We're talking about playoffs. The playoffs are set, so we'll talk about that. And then a few fun storylines about the Clemson Texas game, and we'll wrap it up, and that'll be ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just jump right in it. And first of all, we just want to hand out some flowers right here because we've talked about this for a while. I think kind of the mark of the progress of the program. We started off looking at it. Of course, we know, 3 years ago, ended 5-7 in Sark's first year. Obviously, Texas fans weren't happy with that. But we see growth in the team. We see progress. We improved the next year. And then the following 2 years have finished up with 11-1 regular season campaigns and back-to-back appearances in the playoff.
That's huge.
Now, something that I think has been that Texas has been criticized for highly and deservedly so has been the lack of player development. So for me, that was kind of a marker. And I think a lot of people, that was a marker on, has this team improved? Is this team improving? Well, I don't think you can debate that anymore with Texas. After watching so many get drafted to the NFL last year, and then the award ceremonies adding up this year. Again, we had the Outland Trophy go to Sweat last year, and now Kelvin Banks, brings home the Outland for Texas. Johnny Barron with the Thorpe Award. I think this is just another piece in the puzzle. This is just another benchmark that shows that Texas is back. Texas is back to being where we are. The program standard is there and the improvements are there, right? That's just one more benchmark to show what's going on. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we know Johnny Barron ended up Pro Football Focus grades, the DBs. He was the highest graded DB in all of college football this season. Very deserving of this award. So let's watch. There's a few videos. One, Texas football put out congratulations. We saw them promoting Johnny earlier in the season with some Thorpe worthy highlights. And then they released this amazing video for Johnny for his
Johnny Barron, who's just been a superstar for Texas this season.
Johnny Barron, so talented. New number, see Johnny Barron.
Y'all really can't complain though, because y'all made me like this.
Nicolosi off his back, foot downfield, and it is intercepted. Johnny Barron, the takeaway.
Nobody to trust, because that money made me evil. Wonder if it's cheaper just to keep her.
Never had a chance. It was Barron to get him.
Now they rush forward, ball out quickly, and it's juggled and intercepted. He stands and delivers.
All right, so that's amazing. I love seeing the highlights because it makes you realize, like, home and away in the biggest stages, he's played his best ball. And the stats, I mean, just everything about his leadership. And we know when he came back, and we'll talk about Michael Huff and the role of Michael Huff played. So remember when he said he was returning, it was with the big announcement with Huff with the number 7 jersey. And then we saw Huff say, it's a big responsibility to wear that 7. And he knew taking it on what 7 meant. I mean, it just like you're bringing back DBU and everything that DBU carried and being one of the best, having the best secondary year after year after year at Texas. And do you think that's back now at Texas? Is DBU back?
Yeah, look, I think that's the argument to be made. I think Will Baser brought it up recently. Now with Jade bringing home the Thorpe this year, there is no school out there that has more Thorpe Award winners than Texas.
Right.
Now, I worded that carefully, as did Will. Oklahoma has 3 as well. Texas now has 3 with Huffy, with Aaron Ross, and now with Jade Barron. But yeah, I mean, I think the argument absolutely is there. Texas is DBU. We know the names. We know the people. And leading in that category now, I think it's official to say Texas DBU is back. DBU is Texas. Texas is DBU.
Yeah, they have the most, the most consistent secondary in the country this year, the best performing, the shutdown passing offenses. So this is a picture Jade posted. Michael Taff and Makuba were with him, and he calls them his brothers forever. And they were celebrating with him. And it turns out, that they knew before the awards that he was going to get it. They, you keep it on the down low, but they knew they were going to get it because Michael Huff, the previous Thorpe Award winner, who still is very much a part of the UT football program and on the staff there, was able to award that to him. So let's watch just a little bit of Huff giving the award to Jade.
I still remember us sitting here probably almost a year ago, and we talking about possibly you coming back for your senior year and kind of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. And it was one of those things that, okay, we knew if you came back, like you didn't want to come back just to be good. Like, so you want to come back to be great. You want to come back to leave a legacy. And, we talked about you wearing 7. I was like, well, that's a lot of pressure to wear 7. Yeah. Like, when you come back to wear 7, like, it's got to be a standard. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be, okay, you come back to leave a legacy bigger than yourself. And I feel like you've done that. And I have something to give you that I'm honored to be the one to present this to you. I'm honored to present you with this. I'll let you read it yourself.
For Mr. Barron, the Thorpe Award is presented to the best defensive back in the country based on performance in the field, athletic ability, and character, in the fashion of previous winners like Benny Blades, Roy Williams, and fellow Longhorns Michael Huff and Aaron Ross. Your leadership and moral strength and grit on and off the field have put you in an elite class. Jade, on the behalf of the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame and Jim Thorpe Association, it's truly an honor to congratulate you being named the winner of the 2024 Packman Jim Thorpe Award. We look forward to celebrating and spending time with you and your family, Oklahoma City, in February, and welcome you into the Thorpe family.
It's big time. Congrats.
Oh, I love watching him just taking it because we knew how much what a bet on himself, because he could have gone to the NFL, maybe not as high as he will now, and as proven as he is now at the highest level, but to come back, take on the challenge of leading this much improved defense this year, leading that not just the secondary, but leading the defense this year, and doing it just on and off the field, and to really bet on himself that way and win. It was just so happy for him, and what he makes Longhorn Nation so proud. And
look, it's an emotional thing, and I think you talked about this a little bit earlier when we were introducing this segment. There was a weight that was carried putting on that number 7 with his announcement of him returning this year, coming back. He knew that there was unfinished business, and Huffy talks about it too. Like, when you wear that number 7 at the University of Texas, there's an expectation, there's a weight, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I thought it was really cool that I think he fully understood that coming into this season. He knew what that meant. He knew what that number, like how important that was. And to see him fulfill that kind of prophecy, to fulfill that goal and to achieve that, I think is just so special and so cool. And I think you see the gravitas of that as he's reading that letter, as he's soaking it in. And that Huffy was the guy that was able to tell him, hey man, like, he's the one that got to deliver that message that he was winning the award. That's really cool. That's really special. So, and look, I want to give a shout out to some of the unsung heroes with this too. the Texas social media is on top of it. Like they have this stuff documented well, they have things ready. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is how much campaigning goes behind these kind of awards too, right? And so we showed it earlier with kind of the compilation of all he's accomplished this season. And, you know, for the team, the social team to be on top of that, have all that footage, and then to share that, get it out together to help with that campaign and to really push forward and say, hey, look, you know, this is what he's done. Let's get that campaign going. Let's get that hype going for him. I think you can't undervalue that. And not all schools have that. Not all schools have that ability or have a PR campaign or a PR machine that works as well as Texas's does. So credit to the unsung heroes that bust their butts and put the hours in with the editing and the filming and all that. So yeah, man, good job. Good job all the way around.
Yeah. So they also had to put together, fortunately, media for Kelvin Banks Jr. because Kelvin Banks took home 2 awards. First, back-to-back. Well, he took home the Outland Trophy, which is back-to-back for Texas because Texas had Tavondre Sweat last year as the best lineman in the country. This year, it is Kelvin Banks. And then Kelvin Banks also took home the Lombardi Trophy. And let me open that one so you can see the announcement. So Texas was working double time media for Kelvin Banks, who has projected in all the has been projected since off season to be a top 10, top 5 pick overall in the NFL draft, round 1 pick. And how long has it been since Texas had a round 1 offensive line pick in the draft? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that can really be understated. Again, Texas is on the up and up. And like I mentioned earlier, this program is hitting benchmarks, hitting milestones, showing that progress in the development of the team and the development of the program and the development of the individuals. So I think that's something that you really have to be excited about as a Texas fan and really proud of how far this team has come. Again, you look back, we've talked about this a few times. You look back in that first year where Texas just had an abysmal showing at Iowa State, and guys were on the bus laughing about it, not really caring. And that infamous Bo Davis rant, right? We've come a long way. Texas has come a long way in finding the guys that make sense for the program, that understand the culture, and that are bought in and truly want to be here and truly want to make the program better. And again, it's just exciting to see all of that start to pay off. You know, this is the second year now where the awards are coming in. They're growing. You know, of course, we'll see how Texas does in the draft a little bit later. Still a lot of football left to be played with the 12-game or 12-team playoff. But yeah, it's like those steps are there. The things are coming. So it's exciting. Again, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, you got to be hyped up. You've got to be excited about the trajectory of this program right now.
Yeah. Whenever Sark is asked about, you know, these awards and these individual awards, he always says with the team success will come the individual awards, the high draft rankings, these individual Thorpe Award, Outland Trophy, these kind of things come when the team does well, then individuals will be rewarded. So that's why the team has always have this team first. And then when Jade wins this award, he thanks the team. And we're talking about with a friend that you don't win that award unless the defense is stopping the run and the defense is getting pressure and the edges, the linebackers are making their tackles. Everything that happens up front sets Jade and, Michael Taft and all these other players, sets them up for success. And then they're setting up success for the guys up front because they have the coverage down. It's all right. It all is connected. And he doesn't win that award without his team. But he absolutely had a stellar performance this year. And like we said, really bet on himself. And he wore that 7, like he lived up to everything that 7 means at the University of Texas. So happy for Johnny. And we're talking about Kelvin Banks too now. I'm just all of them. They're proud.
Well, and look, I want to point out as well, like, would you have guessed this year? Because you're absolutely right. Like, you don't win this kind of a Thorpe Award for being, the best DB out there if you're on a crappy team,
you're on a shitty terrible defense.
Right. Like, and if your secondary specifically isn't performing well. Look at where Texas was. I mean, the biggest criticism of the team last year was the secondary. Right. And so that jump from being, and I hate to use this term, but let's use it just for the sake of ease here. The weak link was the secondary last year, right? That was the argument. That was statistically that was. Good. And so to be able to go from that to having a Thorpe Award winner, literally in an off season, that's crazy. Like, that is such progress. And again, like, I really think it should be praised what this staff has done, the work that the players have put in, and the improvement that they've all shown in order for Jada. And again, Jade kicked ass. Like he put the work in. We've seen him talk about it. We've seen him, day in, day out, first in, first out, or first in, last out. Like he's the guy that has been putting in work.
Right.
Not taking that away from him. But as a whole, that secondary, the massive improvement that has come to allow for him to shine and for him to have the success like that, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can't be understated.
So, all right. So back to Kelvin Banks. I know it's so exciting. We're just so happy for Jenny, but we're excited for Kelvin Banks.
Hell yeah.
But Outland Trophy, back-to-back, Texas has this award. And so last year it was Tavondre Sweat, defensive lineman. And it was pretty cool. Just like Huff was able to award the Thorpe to Jade, we got to see Tavondre call up Banks and give him the award. So let's play a second of that where I have it right there.
Hey,
yep,
yo,
Outland.
Kelvin, it's your boy Thorpe Sweat here, man, with the Tennessee Titans, man. I couldn't be more happy watching y'all guys have a great season, man. They continue to have a great season, but like Coach Sark said, come team success, come individual success. So I couldn't be more happy to let you know that you won the 2024 Outlet Trophy. And, bro,
Let's go.
it's a blessing, bro. It's a big, big blessing. And we went back-to-back years, man. And I can't just say but a big congrats and hook 'em.
For real, bro. Sweat. Yes, go. Hey, fool. You told me, bro. You said it, bro. You said so excited, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Ever since I seen you win it, bro, that's all I've been thinking about, bro.
Oh,
I get all teary.
I know it's emotional because they invest. We know with the culture, Sark always talks about. We went from Sark and the staff having to instill the culture and the winning mentality into this program, and then when you see the juniors and seniors who went through that time pass that on to the young ones, and then the young ones are passing it on now. So culture is also going to be being. A team wins are going to bring these individual wins, right? That's going to be part of the culture too. So these kind of massive accomplishments and acknowledgments for their team success, even the individual commitments they've made to the team success, is going to come. And that for him to say, I saw you win it, and I've been wanting that too. Now we see the next row of, like Trevor Gooseby, right, who's been stepping up for Banks while he's been with the ankle injury, right? That's now in the system. That's part of like the expectations now. Like those things are attainable at Texas. Even on the O-line, which has been, a decade of needing to rebuild, and only putting a handful into the NFL over a decade. Now, the expectation is going to be 2 potential first round this year. Next year, there could be potential for more. It's building now, and now it's going to be the standard. Like Sark says, the standard is the standard.
Yeah.
This is now going to be the standard.
Yeah.
These kind of, and you can't control how other people vote. We'll talk in a minute about the joke of the SEC awards, but to have your name in those top conversations of the elite players around the country who've been developed and committed and contributed at a high level for an elite program, that's going to be the standard now.
Yeah.
And the standard will keep rising.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I got a little sidetracked here when I was talking about the Bo Davis rant. But again, to the same point, to be honest, like, would you as a fan, or would you as somebody who has watched this team religiously and understood the history of where Texas has been, especially recently, would you have been a person that was like, bet on, Texas is going to win 2 Outland trophies back to back for the play of their interior linemen? Like that to me, again, just speaks volumes for the development and how far this program has come. Because I know you asked me that 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not answering yes. I'm not betting good money on that, right? Like, and now Texas, like you said, the standard is the standard, and it's just another milestone of success. I just think that's really cool to see. So again, shout out as the accolades keep rolling in. We're going to continue to give shout outs and hand out flowers because, man, these kids are kicking ass and taking names and really putting that pride on. It's talked about often where you play for the name on the front, right? And the name on the back will get its due rewards. So playing for Texas, playing as a team, putting that mentality of team first, Texas first, those accolades are coming now, and that's the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And Tope Amade, we love him here. He's been on the show a couple times. He tweeted something out saying, "Look, you don't really have to recruit in the trenches anymore because the actions, the awards are coming. The proof is there, right? Like these awards coming in, kids see that. To your point, and Tope was saying this too.
part of the recruiting process.
Yeah.
They will see the skins on the wall.
Exactly. You don't have to go out and it's not what ifs. It's not hypotheticals at this point. It's not, oh, this is what we are going to do. Hell no. This is what we are doing. This is what we have done.
Yeah.
Look at the proof, right? And
Yeah.
so I think he brought up a really good point that just makes that recruiting, like it's not as difficult of his job as it would have been last year, the year before.
Yeah. And as much as people have been on the DB coaches and the staff there, and now it speaks for itself, right? Give them time, get in their players, let them develop. And this is now we have All-American. Well, so we know PFF, Pro Football Focus, has their own grading, like they actually grade the players and what they put on film. Jade Barron and Michael Taft made their All-American secondary, and the SEC wouldn't even give Michael Taft, one of the highest graded, safeties in the country,
the highest
first, second, or third team all SEC.
Yeah, let's talk. This is a good segue.
The SEC has been a joke of their awards.
Yeah.
Like whether they're just trying to stiff Texas, or they can't let Texas come in, or they can't get the young ones like Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons more love. Like
sure.
if whatever it is, or it's silliness about their award system right now.
Yeah, I've really got to and look. Sankey came out and straight up said that this was like these were held by votes, by coaches, by people. And obviously there are some folks out there that don't like Texas.
Or haven't played Texas.
Yeah.
Or haven't looked and watched it Texas.
But at the end of the day, he basically confirmed that this is an emotional pick. It's based on emotion, not necessarily numbers. Like they're not looking at numbers and going, okay, statistically, this player is the best in the country. And to an extent, I can understand why you would want to have a bit of emotion in there, because I agree. Sometimes stats can be misleading, right?
Yeah.
Like
Malik Muhammad, one of the best, corners in the SEC, is not going to get the love because they don't throw at him. Yes, the numbers are not the only truth.
Right.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, I can understand why you would want to have a bit of emotion and a bit of more, like intangible stuff that factors into choosing.
Your eyeballs matter too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But that being said, like it looks like no data went into this. It looks like these guys didn't give it. It was a popularity contest or like you said, I don't know that I'm willing to say like stick it to Texas.
No,
but I think there is some underlying bias against Texas in this. And again, I understand we are a fan base that people are going to say, oh, you're just whining, you're being soft. But again, look at the fucking numbers, man. Like, I'm just going to say that. Like,
the best secondary in the country and the highest
Thorpe Award winner,
highest graded player is Michael Taft.
Right.
And he makes not first, second, or third team.
Right. That to me is just like, it's unconscionable. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can't make an argument, like any valid argument, in my opinion, to say why you would leave him off even a mention, right? Like, first, second, name 16 safeties in the SEC that are better than Michael Taft.
You can't.
Right. And that to me is the point. Like, to leave him off completely, come on, man. Like, your bias is showing.
Yeah.
And
here's another one that was shocking. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt coach, SEC coach of the year. SEC coach of the year.
Okay, but like, yes, they finished 6-6.
There's 4 other SEC coaches I would put him, and did he do a good job with what he had? Yes.
Yeah.
Is he the best coach in the SEC? No.
Yeah. Look, and I think, again, you're seeing some of the emotion. This one I understand a little bit more. I don't necessarily fully agree with it, but I can appreciate how you take, like when you take you cellar dweller, the smarty pants that suck at football, when you take Vanderbilt from being the bottom of the SEC, and then they have some major wins, right? They beat Alabama. They beat, like they have some big notable rush the field worthy wins for Vanderbilt. I can appreciate the argument can be made of, is he the best coach in the SEC? I don't know. That's a hard thing to value or determine based just on the record, right? Like, you have to consider the starting point for each team. and the ending point, right?
If I was going by starting point to any part of this season,
Yeah.
look at Florida. Look what
Yeah.
Florida's done.
Yeah.
And when everyone thought their coach was going to be fired by now, he has them on momentum. They finished this season pretty strong. Look at South Carolina.
Listen,
Look at Georgia. Like, you have to give credit for the way they still came back and won an SEC championship game.
Yeah, but
they're just better.
I mean, I get that, but again,
I
like
can argue against him all.
No, I get it.
yeah.
I get it. Like Florida, sure. Back end of the season, hell yeah, give him coach of the year. Georgia, I don't know, because I think the expectation for Georgia was so high. And again, we're talking about the standard is the standard at Texas, right?
Yeah.
The standard is the standard at Georgia. So where that expectation was, I think Georgia kind of fell short of that. Ultimately, they ended up in a favorable
South
place.
Carolina, I just,
Look, I get it.
For what the turnaround at South Carolina, I just, it's to me, it's gotten to it's at the same time, it's everyone gets a trophy and no one gets a trophy.
Yeah.
How do they do that at the same time?
Yeah,
They've managed to do that.
It's impressive if you really think about it.
The SEC awards have managed to do that.
Sure.
All right. So anyway, let's one more thing with giving love to the Texas players and their awards. We always like to give love to the Texas players and whatever charity work they have going on. And we want to share this again because it's special. Daniel Cruz, Texas offensive lineman Daniel Cruz, is hosting a Coach for Kids. And I thought that was really sweet. So we'll play this for you.
Hey Longhorns, I'm Danny Cruz, center for the Texas Longhorns. Winter's coming, and for a lot of kids, that means a struggle to stay warm. But we can change that. Coats for Kids is collecting thousands of winter coats for kids who needs the most, and you can help them make a difference. Starting November 12th, drop off your new or gently used coats at any Jack Brown Cleaners location to help a child stay warm. Donate, online, or volunteer. Let's keep every child in Central Texas warm this season. Spread the word, share the warmth, and join me in supporting Coats for Kids. Together, we can make this winter a little warmer. Hook 'em.
Okay, I love that.
He's so adorable,
it.
doing good work.
Yeah, good charity work there. And also, where can I get that scarf?
That scarf is amazing.
Because I like it. I like it.
All right. So here, let's hit some of the comments. Thank you so much for joining in with the comments. Let's hit some of those. CB says the latest Quinn rumor is Michigan State is willing to pay $4 million. This stuff's out of control. He's NFL bound.
Yeah, look, I can tell you right now, like
Michigan State didn't even have
Michigan State don't have $4 million. If they had $4 million to pay a quarterback, their team wouldn't be in the state that it's in. I can tell you right now, like their alumni don't donate like Michigan does. Like Michigan has some balls behind their NIL. Michigan State isn't quite there yet.
And
$4 million.
Quinn's going to the NFL.
Yeah, look, we've heard Quinn's going a million different places. Guys, any of the quarterback controversy.
I don't blame them for giving him an NFL paycheck for a year and see if he'll take it.
If they have the money. But
if they have the money.
I'm just saying, like, all of these rumors, anything that you see with the rumor, I would say for any quarterback, but especially the quarterback controversy at Texas, like it's all clickbait, y'all. That is not anything that is a real deal.
Well, you never know. Some of this stuff is getting crazy. I agree. It is getting wild, wild west. And we'll talk in a minute about the transfer portal. It is getting wild, wild west.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, volleyball fell today. Was it Creighton, right?
Yeah.
Fell today 3-1 to Creighton, I think it was. And
they
run,
won the first set.
Their run is over, back-to-back national champions, but make it to another Sweet 16, and it's a bummer.
Man, I've seen so many Texas fans, several Texas fans talk about, oh, what a disappointing season this was, and
the standard is so high.
Yeah, exactly.
But the standard is national championships, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, right? But if you take a step back and truly appreciate what that means, like Texas is coming off back-to-back national championships. I love that Texas's standard is a natty for volleyball. So when you make the Sweet 16, it feels like a disappointment.
Right.
Like, what an incredible program. So yeah, I think it feels like a little bit of a letdown. It feels like that standard's high, but it's still a hell of a damn season, especially for a team that was completely retooled. You lost some major players there. You had to retool.
They were reloading for sure, and
figuring out the rotation. If you watch volleyball early this year, they went to a different kind of rotation, and it did kind of mess them up, right? Like it was a little different. It took them a little bit to get in the pattern. About halfway through the season, we saw those 3 conference losses in a row, including some losses at home that just hasn't happened at Texas for decades. And again, credit to Coach Elliott for figuring it out, changing rotation. and Texas started to get a bit on a heater. But I think at that point, like the chemistry had you'd figured it out, but it was kind of obvious when you watched them. It wasn't the same kind of chemistry as we saw the past 2 seasons. So,
and
but still,
really, to win a national championship, you really have to have that lightning in a bottle.
You do.
And Texas had it 2 years in a row.
Right.
And considering the next year they were reloading, and they still came back and won a national
and made
championship.
it.
And so to catch that 3 years in a row would be.
Again. So this is not to knock the season or the team. Like, it's just incredible, like how fortunate we are that we can be picky about being bummed about a Sweet 16, you know?
Yeah.
So
congrats again.
Still an incredible season.
It is an incredible season to make it to the Sweet 16 when there are, every school has volleyball. All right. So let's move on to the big news. The last couple of days was the SEC schedule being out.
Yeah.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
So the SEC schedule is out. Texas opens the season. This will be with a new offensive line. Could be all new offensive line, a new starting quarterback, Arch Manning, a fairly new, pretty new defensive line, or young ones now being heavy in the rotation, plus whatever transfer portal players we get. It will be with no Barron, probably no Taft, no Makuba. Like, it'll be
it's a new team.
But the young ones who have been developing the system coming up, they get to start at Ohio State. Thoughts?
I saw when I first saw this schedule, I'm just going to be honest, I didn't love it. I looked at it and felt like, man, that home slate sucks. It sucks. Come on. It sucks. And then you look more into it.
Let's say who's at Texas. So San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston State. I kind of like having UTEP and Sam Houston State because Texas teams at Texas coming to play Texas. Vanderbilt, Arkansas, A&M.
Yeah.
I mean, we end the season strong with some good hate at home.
Yeah, there's that. But again, if you look at it, Texas plays at home every weekend in September. So every weekend that Texas plays in September is home. And that's San Jose State, UTEP, then a bye week, and then Sam Houston.
I'll take it.
But then Texas goes away. They don't play home a single game in October.
Mm-mm.
That's what I really hate about how this schedule plays out. Like, you have a month of home games against teams that are and then you have an away slate that's aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Florida looking a lot tougher, certainly in Gainesville. Florida looking a lot
much
tougher than they were this year. OU is always a crazy game.
Are they going to even have a team next year?
Yeah, look, Kentucky and Mississippi State, maybe not as challenging as they could have been, but you're still looking at a month of home games and then a month of away games. That's just a brutal schedule. Like, sprinkle some of those in. Like, give me a home and away, or maybe a couple homes and a couple of ways, but 4 or 3 home games in a row and then 4 home game or away games in a row. Actually, it's 5 away games. Like, Texas doesn't play a true home game from September 13th when they play UTEP all the way until November 1st.
No, September 27th, we have a home game for Sam.
Oh, sorry. So September 27th all the way to November 1st.
Yeah, so that's 5 or 6
a long ass stretch.
Yeah, without a home game.
Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful time of year to be at home in October.
Yeah. So, when this schedule first came out, like, I don't love it. I'll be honest. I think that if you're paying for season tickets, you look at the slate of teams that you got.
It's about the same as having Iowa State and Kansas State at home.
I'm not saying it's not.
I'm saying it's about the same.
I'm not saying it's not.
This year. But I'm just saying the Aggies and Arkansas back.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying
I'm kind of excited to see San Jose State in Austin. That'll be kind of fun.
I think Sam Houston State's a cooler
matchup.
That's
fun.
There's going to be some local interest.
Fun. Yeah.
Shout out to our buddy Jim Thrasher.
Yes.
His alma mater, Sam Houston State. He'll be excited to come to that game.
I'm glad we get the bye week before Georgia.
Yeah.
So to rest. Because it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row of football. And then you get to rest before you go to Georgia.
Yeah.
That could be huge late in the season. And then finishing with 2 home games, that is going to be huge in the season.
And what I do appreciate about this is Texas, again, is not doing this bullshit SEC thing where they schedule a super cupcake, an FCS school in November. Right.
We're the only SEC school that's not scheduling FCS at all.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Okay, we're taking on Ohio State, who is obviously a historically good school. A
playoff team.
We'll see how they are next year. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, right? But But there's 2 bye weeks, which I like. I like that Texas is not shying away from a more difficult schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And they're instead opting to take 2 bye weeks rather than a cupcake in November, right? So I appreciate that. Somebody pointed out, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who this was, but I saw somebody point out in regards to this schedule, they said, it's kind of like the NFL. And when you frame it like that, I don't hate it, right? Like your first August 30th through September 13th, that is kind of your preseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Consider the NFL preseason where you got a tough ass game at Ohio State. But at the end of the day, if you lose that game, it doesn't really mess up your season, right? Then you've got,
I don't know.
Then you get into after the bye week, then you get into Sam Houston State, then you're at Florida, you're at OU or, in Dallas, at Kentucky and at Mississippi State. That's kind of like the tweak it early in the season, figure out who you are as a team, make your changes, right? Because again, while I'm not trying to jinx us or anything, Florida does look like a more difficult game than it did this season. But you've still got some teams on there that you've got the opportunity to get some different guys and figure out your personnel, figure out like who's working best with each other. You got some flexibility with that, right? And then you get into the tail end of the season, which if you look at it from the NFL perspective, that is like your meat and potatoes, every game counts. And that's where the hatred really comes in, right? You got at Georgia, and then like you mentioned, the Pigs come to Texas.
That is a tough last 3 games.
Yeah, it's a real tough last 3 games. But the fortunate part of this is that what I would argue are your toughest games, not including that Ohio State, right, game, but your toughest games, the people that hate you the most are at the tail end when you've had a full season to develop and figure out and tweak and figure out exactly who you are as a team.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, I can appreciate it.
The only reason I don't think that first part is like preseason is because at Ohio State, if whoever wins that game, just like last year when Texas went into Bama and beat them, it kept them just ahead of them in the rankings all year long, all season long. Texas State just ranked ahead of Alabama, and it mattered. And even earlier this year, when there was debate about if should Clemson fall off and not make the playoff, or if should SMU just get annihilated and not make the playoffs, whatever that last spot, was it going to go to a really hot South Carolina team, or was it going to go to Alabama? And you could argue easily it could be Alabama because they beat them head to head.
Right.
And it's not, even though South Carolina was hot and Alabama was looking crazy losing to OU, they still beat them head to head. And those head to heads have to matter. Georgia was going to always stay ranked ahead of Clemson because they beat them head to head. So I think that Texas Ohio State game matters even at the end of the year, because they're going to, when they start comparing resumes at the end of the season, that head-to-head win for either team should matter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think the argument that I would make here is really that, all right, let's take last season, for example, when Texas played Bama in Tuscaloosa before it was an SEC conference game, right? They went in, Texas went in and won. You're absolutely right. That weighted the tipped the scales a little bit in Texas's favor to keep them ranked ahead of Alabama when it got a little bit closer. But that was when we were talking about a 4-team playoff system. You've got 12 teams now, in my opinion. And this year we would have kept one out of the 12 teams. I'm still arguing though that the games at the beginning of the season, especially Texas should, if strength of schedule matters, Texas should be getting credit for going to Ohio State and playing a hard game early. At the end of the day, I don't think that game is going to hurt you as much as long as you finish the season strong, right? Play strong in conference games, finish the season with a good resume, even if you lose that game early, as long as you're competitive in it, right? I'm not saying you can go up to the shoe and get blown out and still not have that weight in. But in my opinion, I think there's a little bit more leeway at the beginning of the season where you can lose a game if you play well, if you show well, and it not just obliterate your schedule.
Define your season.
Right.
But at the end of the year, when there's going to be comparing resumes, that could be a deal breaker. That could be a difference maker, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So Joshua, I want to get to your question. Clearly not a Texas fan. We appreciate you being here and giving your thoughts. You think it's still not a hard schedule and you can't wait till Texas has to play one of two in a season of Ole Miss, Bama, LSU, plus playing our rivals like in the pods like they were talking about. Look, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't think it's the hardest schedule that Texas possibly could have had, but I do think it's valid to say Florida's a better team than they were. Like they're finishing the season strong. And that all of a sudden that game in Gainesville looks a lot more difficult, right? Arkansas always has hate for Texas, A&M, Elko. I'm still going to say this. Texas went into Kyle Field, played a good game, was dominant in that game, but I do think Elko is a good fit. And I think A&M is going to be better than they have been in the past. I think
who's going to be their quarterback next year?
Yeah, that's a good fucking question. We'll figure that out.
I mean, for me, it starts there. Who's going to be their quarterback?
So could Texas have a harder schedule? Yeah, for sure. And of course, being a part of the SEC, that's something that's going to come up in rotation. But at the end of the day, Texas plays who they're scheduled. Like, we don't have any say in that. Texas doesn't have any say in that. So, and just like, and I'll say this about this season too. The argument against Texas was that they didn't have a hard schedule and they haven't beaten any ranked teams. Well, again, when Texas played them, they were ranked, and Texas beat them by enough to knock them out of the rankings.
They're not ranked.
Yeah, like to knock them out of the rankings. So I understand him. I hear you, man. Like, we're going to play who we have. And I agree. There are going to be some years that are going to be absolutely brutal and things are going to be way harder. But at the same time, like, you can only play who you've got. Yeah. And I think Texas did a good job given the circumstances. And again, I don't want to underplay this first year as well. Like, everybody, Texas has a target on their back, right? Like, everybody wants to be the one to put Texas in their place in the SEC.
Yeah.
They think we're coming in cocky. They think we're coming in arrogant. And maybe we are. Maybe we got a little bit of swagger. But, Texas, like we talked about earlier in this program, Texas is on the up and up. And we feel like the standard is the standard. And Texas should be competing for natties every season.
Yeah.
So, there's a little bit of confidence, a little bit of cockiness, perhaps, a little bit of arrogance, as some people might say. But there is a crazy target. And this happened in the Big 12. This is going to happen in the SEC. People want to knock Texas off the pedestal. They want to knock them off the high horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if there were teams that, this is going to sound really arrogant, so I'm just going to own it. If there were teams that people didn't care about playing a schedule like Texas played, the competition wouldn't be as tough. But everybody brings their A game, right? Like, we've had this conversation that Texas is a lot of people's Super Bowl. And so they're playing out of their mind against Texas.
They say it's not, but then sell out their stadium. The price of tickets are crazy. Game day shows up. All these things happen when they say it does. Oh, it's just Texas. Oh, but why did you have students who have been camping for 10 days to make sure they get into that game?
Right.
Because it matters.
Right.
So, yeah.
And again, you want to use statistics. Exactly like you said, viewership is up. Like, travels up. So yeah, I get it. Look, man,
prices of tickets are crazy.
So Joshua, I'm not arguing. I'm not saying that Texas has the hardest schedule of all of college football. Nobody's going to say that.
But it's not an easy schedule.
But it's not an easy schedule, and you play who you're given, right?
Yeah, and these teams that Texas beat, they beat Ole Miss, they beat Alabama, they beat Tennessee, they beat Georgia. The teams that Texas plays and beats, they beat those teams too. So it's anyone, they say, oh, it's a grind. Anyone can beat anyone in the SEC. And we've seen it. Like, Texas has beaten teams that win and beat those other teams. So even if Texas, there's no transitive property, if it's all about matchups, but it's not like you're playing teams that can't beat anyone.
Right.
And Texas played the most bowl eligible teams. So Texas played winning programs and won, and that's all they can do. Right. All right. So let's move on. Let's move on to a big story this week, transfer portal. And we have a question here. Thanks for asking it, because we definitely are not going to skirt this question. We were going to talk about this question.
Yeah.
Ladies, what are y'all's thoughts regarding Justice Finkley entering the transfer portal? Thanks. From Miracle. Oh, we'll talk about it, because everyone knows we are very, very great family friends with the Finkleys. We love the Finkleys. Had Thanksgiving dinner with the Finkleys. We love the Finkleys, right? We had Thanksgiving with the Finkleys.
Family's family.
And that's always going to come first, right? Yeah. And we know when it comes to the transfer portal, and I tweeted this earlier in the week, doesn't matter who goes in, you just wish them the best.
Right.
Everyone has their own journey, their own story of where they feel they can contribute the most and prove themselves the most and get the most opportunity. We love that the Finkleys trusted and invested in Texas for Justice's education, for his development, for his lifestyle of living in Austin, all the things that come with committing to the university. And we've become close family friends with that amazing family, right? So we will love him. We will, as long as it's not the Aggies, we will wear his jersey. We will support him wherever he goes, and just wish him nothing but love and success, because everyone has to make their own way, their own journey. I'm already sad because we're going to miss them so much.
Yeah, just as humans.
Yeah, but we just love Justice is a wonderful, wonderful young man, intelligent, potential out the
talented as heck.
Yeah. his future is football and beyond, right? Football and beyond football. So we just wish them everything, nothing but success. And the whole family.
Yeah. And I will say this, of course, we'd love to see him stay in the burnt orange, and we'll always wish him success. But I also want to add on to that, like, I understand it, right? This
business decision.
We've talked about healthy attrition, and we've talked about players that you can't, there's no such thing as a roster that grows without some attrition, right? There's no such thing as a roster that improves without some healthy attrition. And so I understand, given, the decline in his playing time and given the opportunities, he's got a year left of eligibility. So I understand, given the circumstances, that he wants to optimize his potential. He wants to give himself the best shot at getting playing time and being on the field and having that pay off. So while it hurts my heart emotionally, as a business decision, I absolutely understand it. And I will never knock him for making that choice. I get it. And it's again, we'll be emotional about it. We'll miss him and we'll miss the family, but we're going to do nothing but wish him the absolute best moving forward.
Yeah. So this news broke a couple hours ago. We were out at lunch and, April messages, hey, what time is it there? Because I guess she wanted to make sure she told us before the news was released. Yeah. But so it says here, 6'2", 250 edge. He had 26 tackles, 2.5 sacks. He's been an incredible contribution to the culture building of Texas and a huge leader in the community and contributes. We know he's done volunteer work in Costa Rica with the, student athletes at the school and just really a leader in the community and grown to love Austin. But, at some point it's his opportunity as a moment now to really seize this opportunity. Right. And if the young recruits and other people have taken playing time or whatever, this isn't fitting or working best for him right now, then all we do is wish him to go find a place where he can ball and, graduate, finish school, and just wish him the best. And we're going to miss him so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But we'll cheer for him wherever he goes.
Hey, but man, Texas, we mean this when we say it. Texas is family. Once a Longhorn, always a Longhorn, man. Once a Longhorn, always a Longhorn. We'll always rep him. We'll always appreciate him. We'll always send love, and we'll always love the Finkleys.
Yes, for sure. So we have when we always say the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. Sometimes the portal taketh away, but today the portal also giveth. I'm trying to click this; it won't open, but that's okay. Here we go. We have a new punter, Megan. And this punter is Jack Bowmeister. We will learn his name,
but he's Australian, so you got to say Bowmeister.
Bowmeister. When I try to do an Australian accent, it's terrible.
I know,
and it sounds like I'm talking country. Bowmeister, and he's already rocking. This is a badass jacket.
Straight up,
this is a badass jacket. Look at the stripes in the sleeves.
I know. Also, where can I find that jacket? But I love this too because this is the most. I love this photo, just this commitment photo. This is this is gangster as it gets, but also country and also a little Australian. I love it, man.
Yeah, he's got his horns up in his badass Texas kind of Leatherman bomber jacket looking thing, and he's got the black cowboy hat and his horns up, and he's from Utah. Well, he's been playing at Utah. And now he is transferring to Texas.
So fun fact, and again, this is where I'm going to try to make it about the teams I love. He actually started his career with Michigan State.
Oh,
fun fact.
Then he transferred. Why is he hopping around? Now it makes me worry.
They lost. Michigan State lost their head coach when Mel Tucker went away after that whole debate. Yeah. So he went to Utah, had a lot of success, won some awards at Utah. So hey, man, like you said, the portal taketh away sometimes, but in this instance, the portal giveth.
And we know punter / maybe kicker is a question right now at Texas. Special teams needs help. We need some depth. We need some depth, not death. Depth. And we need some competition. And this is an opportunity to get that. Also, we know lifetime Longhorn Malik Murphy had his, he was behind Quinn and Arch, and he went on to play for Duke this year, led them to a great season and the first win ever at Florida State and all those things. Yeah. He is saying goodbye. We messaged it a few days ago that the word was out. He was transferring. He made his actual announcement that he is moving on from Duke, and he has word is it could be Miami. It could be something really big for him. So good for him to capitalize, put more stuff on film, be the leader of his team. There were some games where they would not have won it without Malik Murphy, and he proved that he contributes at that level. So transfer portal giveth and transfer portal taketh away.
Absolutely.
It happens, you know.
But hey, like we were talking about with Justice Finkley, same with Malik. Once a Longhorn, always a Longhorn, man. We'll support you no matter where you end up. We love it. We wish him nothing but the best. We will always be Malik Murphy stands. Always.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have made it to the playoffs last year without him, because
Absolutely.
if we had lost to Kansas State at home without Malik Murphy, Texas would not have made the playoffs. And this year, you know, last year it was Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas. Only one of those teams is back in the playoffs this year. So that's a great transition, Megan.
It is.
To the playoffs. Let's see. There are updated that we saw the brackets were set, and Texas hosts Clemson next Saturday in the first round. Well, let's look at what the most recent odds are of winning the playoffs, winning the championship. And right now, odds to win a championship, Texas and Oregon tied with the best odds, 360, and then Georgia, Ohio State, Boise State, Clemson, and Arizona with the worst odds. And look at the two teams that Texas plays along the way. If they beat Clemson, they'll get Arizona State. So, you know, it just keeps lining up with Texas having the easiest schedule possible, and it'll be a joke if they win.
Well, look, that's how playoffs work, y'all. We've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. Playoffs are not the way to determine the best team in the nation. A lot has to go into that, a lot of luck. And, you know, again,
and giving two of those buys, the teams with the least chance odds of winning they're sitting at home waiting to be beat next week.
Yeah, we talked about this on our last episode earlier this week. I mean, I think there should be some review of how those bye weeks are decided. Should it be a true seeding, right? Like, do certain conference champions, should they be afforded a bye week automatically, or should it be you're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, but then the bye weeks are afforded
for the top 4 teams?
Correct. Afforded by the actual seeding there, which I think there's a strong argument to be made for that. But we're still in the infancy of the 12-team playoff, and I'm sure there will be tweaks and changes as we go. So there's certainly that. I wanted to address one comment here before we moved on. We were talking about this CB. You're right. Got to point this out. We've talked about former Longhorns and how we'll support them. It looks like
transfer portal talk. Yeah.
Brennan Thompson, who started with Texas, transferred to Oklahoma, which is a painful transfer, if I just got to say it. It has now announced that he is in the portal and he has left Oklahoma. Looks like he has landed at Mississippi State, which I don't hate for him. Honestly, I think Levy's system will be a good fit for him. And keep in mind, too, Levy was the guy that was at Oklahoma when Brennan transferred, right? And then Levy kind of got scapegoated. Again, I don't have any love for Jeff Levy and his history with Baylor and Art Briles and all that, but he's a good coach. He can coach his ass off. And he was actually the coach that was there when Brennan transferred. So it looks to me like he's following his coach.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can go with people you trust and know, I mean, best of luck to them.
Yeah.
I know, just looking at the numbers, it looks like Oklahoma is losing a lot. Pretty much their receiving core, their quarterback.
In Oklahoma's case right now, the portal taketh and continue to taketh and taketh. Yeah.
I
don't know that it's done much giving for Oklahoma recently.
Yeah. They're going to be a rebuild next year again. And their coach's 4th year, 5th year.
Rebuild forever.
Yeah.
Extend Brent Venables. I'm here for it.
All right. So here's another probability odds kind of thing. Sportsline has national championship chances. Texas with the best chance of winning. I was wondering why Georgia dropped so much. And then I remembered, Carson Beck is gone. And now that people have some film on that, what was his name? Stockton.
Yeah.
Whatever the Gunner Stockton. Gunner.
God, that's a West Texas name.
Gunner Stockton.
Gunner Stockton.
Like Colt McCoy. That kind of name. Now that backup quarterback is in and people have some film on his, even Texas was able to adjust on him pretty quickly, even after that first good drive he had.
Right.
So there's going to be more film on him through the playoffs. He doesn't have the experience of those big moments like Carson Beck does. So that's going to hurt Georgia's chances overall, even though they still have an elite defense. Penn State surprised me with the second best odds to win the championship, even over Oregon. So,
I think.
And look at the worst chances. Clemson.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, 1 second, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
CB said Acho is picking Clemson to win the national championship. Well, I hope he's betting $10,000 because he could win $50 million.
Right. Yeah. Look, I don't agree with Acho. I think that's something, and we'll talk about this a little later in the program when we talk about the Texas. We kind of preview the Texas Clemson matchup, but yeah, I don't see how you give Clemson the best odds. Again, they're in the more favorable side of the bracket. I'll agree with that, but as is Texas. But I don't see Clemson coming into Austin and making it out of that first round. I just don't. So
I don't see them. I mean, the Texas are almost 2 touchdown favorites at home right now.
Right.
So it would be a huge upset if they were to pull that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the brackets overall? Like, you feel Texas has a good, strong, I just had it right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think Texas's chances, like we mentioned, I was going to say this, take it as a consolation prize that Texas didn't win the SEC championship. Of course you want to win. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it didn't suck. Like, we wanted to win that. But the consolation prize here, I think, as you can see, Texas is in a favorable position. That number 5 seed, the way that this playoff is set up. Again, if this changes where the automatic bids are in, but the bye weeks goes by seeding, that changes the whole outlook of this bracket. But this year, for these rules, in the year of our Lord 2024, Texas is in a favorable position. They are in a favorable side of the bracket to advance and move forward. The biggest challenge that Texas is going to face, I think, is going to be, if they make it all the way through, it's the semifinals, right? Potentially playing either Ohio State or Oregon.
Or Tennessee.
Tennessee
Tennessee
could
could
surprise
through, but
yeah, I think it's more likely that we see Ohio State or Oregon there. And in that case, probably Oregon.
Probably Oregon. Ohio State went to Oregon and lost only by 1 point. It's going to be how many people are still sticking it out with these teams through the transfer portal and through all this off season. I see why Penn State has better odds than Oregon, because it's more likely that Penn State gets through SMU and Boise State than it is for Oregon to get through, one of the Ohio States and Tennessees, and then a Texas or probably a Texas,
right?
Yeah, or Clemson or Arizona State. So I can see why that, but I would like people to talk as much about Penn State's easy path there. They have SMU and Boise
Smooth
State.
Ponies and Boise State. Yeah.
At least
that's
Arizona. At least Arizona State's a Power 4 school.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Notre Dame and Indiana. That's going to be a state of Indiana bloodbath thing, and then they go to Georgia. So those are going to be physical games. That whatever happens there, those 2 games are going to be so physical. And if one of those teams is going to face probably a Penn State, those are going to be some beat up teams,
right?
While the other side of the bracket is a lot more spread and speed, and it's kind of interesting to see the way it's been split. So of course Arizona State has a very physical running game, but it's going to be fun to see. These playoffs are going to be so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's to that point. It's interesting how it lines up. Like, again, I think it's favorable for Texas, all things considered. Again, you play the games that are in front of you. You make the best of the opportunities you're presented.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out. We plan on being at the first ever playoff game in DKR.
Yes, we'll be there.
Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move to that. Clemson comes to Texas next Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time. And Texas, of course, we saw Texas being ranked number 5. Seeded 5, not ranked, seeded number 5. Yeah. They get to host a playoff game. So Clemson is coming to Texas as the winner of the ACC. They have to go to the loser of the SEC championship game. All right, so first let's hear from Thorpe, because he talked about what this break means to the team, and then a little bit about some of the storylines of this game coming up.
I think, quite honestly, our guys need a little bit of a break. I think our players need a little bit of a break. Mentally and physically, this has been a grind, especially last month. We went 5 straight SEC games, including the championship game, 2 rivalry games in there with Arkansas and A&M on the road. So our guys need a little bit of a break for a couple days, and then that'll give us as a staff a chance to start game planning and getting to work on it. So that in the latter half of the week we can start implementing those things with them. But I think from our players' perspective, they were excited. There's some crossover there. Obviously, Andrew Makuba, playing great for us right now at safety, transferred from Clemson, Cade Klubnik went to high school right here in Austin, Texas, so it's a coming home party for him. And he and Quinn competing in the state championship game with Michael Taft playing safety as a teammate with Cade Klubnik, getting an interception off of Quinn. So there's a lot of storylines here, but I think more importantly for us and for Longhorn Nation, an opportunity to host another home game here at DKR, a week from Saturday at 3 o'clock is going to be awesome in the inaugural year of the 12-team.
All right. So lots of storylines here. Let's talk about those. So you talked about Texas. They need rest, right? They've been going physical schedule, especially the back end of this schedule with tough road games. They played in Atlanta in a very physical game that went to overtime. And even that game was pretty much a home game for Georgia. So they get to rest. And then he was talking a little bit, started talking about the storylines of the game, kind of the same thing that Dabo mentioned when he was interviewed for Sports Illustrated about this game. He talked about, that there's the story of, we saw it the other day, Quinn Ewers and Cade Klubnik, when Quinn was at South Lake Carroll and Cade Klubnik played for Westlake, they met up in the state championship game. Westlake won that game, and but it wasn't beat up Quinn Ewers. He was injured and played through injury, but he still played well. It's just Westlake came out on top. So Dabo Swinney talks about Sark having done an amazing job building this very, very, quote, very, very talented roster. He said, quote, this is the complete football team in every sense of the word, good enough to win the whole thing. And it was really interesting to mention how when he first became the head coach at Clemson in 2008, 2009, when he started first becoming a head coach, that it was Mac Brown who helped him with the transition to becoming a head coach and helped answer a lot of his questions or, help solidify what he was transitioning into. So there was more Texas ties there. So it's kind of neat. So what storyline most fascinates you? Oh, he also mentioned the storyline of Makuba, and he praised Makuba, and how because of the COVID time, he didn't even meet him till he was on campus. And I don't know, maybe they FaceTime before or something. We could have a whole. We'll talk about Dabo next week. When we preview this game, we will talk about Dabo because he is different.
I've got opinions on Dabo for sure.
He has not taken transfer portal players.
Yeah, there is some speculation that may change this year. That he may change some things up, but he has been very vocal.
Out, he won an ACC championship again.
Look, he has been very vocal about speaking out against the portal.
And he's like anti-NIL.
Yeah.
He's behind the times.
Again, I have thoughts and opinions on that. I don't think you get to sit in your, high tower making millions of dollars a year, telling off the backs of your players and saying that they don't deserve a piece of that. That's neither here nor there. We can jump into that as we dive more into the Clemson and Texas talk. But to get back to the original point, how do I feel about the commentary so far? Or what do I find is the most interesting?
Are you is intriguing about this game?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think the Makuba angle is pretty cool. And I don't think it's being talked about a whole lot. I think some Texas fans, maybe the media too, it kind of glosses over the fact or forgets that Makuba was a transfer from Clemson, right? And so going against, I'm sure he angered Dabo greatly by
being a transfer
portal guy, right? Using that transfer portal.
Amazing performance at Texas.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Again, we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the program. You brought this up. His numbers, like if you look at the stats for Makuba this year, if you had just looked at stats and you hadn't watched the games all season, you'd be like, oh, those aren't crazy overwhelming. But the point is, he's been playing so damn well at Texas. Nobody's throwing in his general direction.
He's impactful.
Yeah.
He's very impactful.
He absolutely has taken away half of the field, right? So that's been really, he's had, in my opinion, a really excellent career at Texas. He showed up really well. And again, he's part of that, the Mookie and Jade.
That's secondary in the country.
Yeah. So I think that's an intriguing storyline. Some people bring up, is he going to be able to give some of Clemson's secrets away? Look, they changed the name of things. Now, he may be able to recognize some of the packages. He may be able to recognize, and it doesn't hurt that in practice when he was at Clemson, he went up against a Dabo Swinney run offense, right? I think that, but to assume that things haven't changed at Clemson or, I don't think it's going to give any tangible, any really marked advantage to Makuba or Texas over Clemson in that sense.
Yeah. I don't know what team Texas has played this year that matches or is compared to Clemson. I think they're their own thing right now. I'm going to go back and watch a lot more Clemson because I've watched a lot because I like to watch Cade Klubnik play. I like to watch him. So I've watched some. I think the biggest game of the season was too early to gauge because they've improved since then, which was their game against Georgia to start the season where they got just annihilated, right? And we know they have a strong defensive front, but last week Penn State was able to run. I'm sorry, that was Oregon. Clemson, Georgia, the one they played in the ACC championship game just a few days ago.
SMU,
thank you. SMU was able to run on them, and put points on them. And so I feel like at home, Texas has a good advantage to be able to throw the ball on them and run on them. And if Texas can execute, it will be Texas that beats itself if they don't win that game. They should match up.
I would agree with that. Like if you look at the matchup, and again, we'll dive way more into this as we preview in the upcoming weeks. But I think if you look at those matchups, Texas's defense is just lights out. I don't think that's a favorable matchup for Clemson. And Klubnik, I'll give him his credit. I know he's
going to have a lot of friends and family.
He is.
Like he says, he's coming back to Austin. I'm sure all his friends and family will be there cheering for him, but they can't pack 100,000. Oh, let's talk about that. The tickets, like the Clemson tickets. What did you see about that?
Yeah, so I've got a friend that is a pretty big Clemson guy, big donor there, been around for a while, and he actually forwarded me an email and said, holy crap, do you have a line on tickets? Because Clemson apparently, and again, I'm going to say what this email said and then kind of walk through it. But Clemson basically said there were no tickets available for season ticket holders to select from. Like they couldn't even put requests in. Apparently, now again, they were vague about this in the details of the email. I posted that on Twitter at Texas Fancy Boots. Check it out. You can read through it yourself. But essentially what it looks like to me is kind of like a situation that's happened to Texas for the bigger games. In the sense that you have to be an insane donor and donate X amount of points to even be considered for certain games. And I think where Clemson's cutoff was because of the reduced tickets available. Now, keep in mind, Texas is hosting, but this is still an NCAA run event, right? So Texas still has to work within the confines of that. And ticket allocations, as far as I understand it, are still up to the NCAA.
Right.
So there was a reduced amount of available tickets to Clemson as a school in general. And I think the way that I'm reading this is that most of those, if not all of them, got picked up and got snatched up by the band, by
the
staff, the parents, right? Like support staff and for family members for the players. So there's absolutely no excuse for Texas. I'm telling you, Clemson fans are going to be looking online for those tickets for sale. So Texas fans, if you can, sell to your Texas friends. But there is no excuse for DKR to not be rocking. We should all be there in burnt orange, loud and proud, and supporting the team that way. I do think this is going to be a really favorable atmosphere for Texas.
I like that because if you're going to say you get a home game for the playoffs, I should be able to get a home game.
Make it a true advantage.
I shouldn't have half and half. They shouldn't even be a quarter of my tickets going to them.
Right.
It should be my 99% Texas pack full like it always is, right? They get their little section up in the nosebleeds. That's fine. But it should be a home game. So, yes, make sure the University of Texas, if you've been awarded that, you should be able to get similar to your normal allotment of mostly you in the stadium, right? Mostly home fans. So that's great. I have no problem with Clemson not being able to get tickets to this game.
And to point out too, there was some question earlier. A map had been released by Texas. Actually, it was uploaded on Texas's site that helped it was a color key map to show you like where the price breaks were, where the individual sections and how they were classifying each one. And at first, it looked like the Texas students section had been greatly reduced and moved to the upper deck. And that had caused, understandably, some folks to be upset.
Especially as much as they say the students.
Right.
Yeah.
It turns out that was a mistake by Texas. It was the wrong map that was uploaded. So there is no change in the student section. Students still
still get that entire northeast corner with the band.
Yeah. So the way that I understand it, and again, I could be wrong on this, but the way that I understand it is that the NCAA essentially defines who, like the allotment for each school, right? But then within those allotments, it's up to Texas and the Texas ticketing office to kind of break up the sections within that, right? So what's made available to your donors, what's made available to the students, right?
And they were still supposed to get $25 tickets to this game, something like that.
Yeah,
the students.
Yeah, and they did. And so Texas upheld their end on that.
Good.
So the student section is still section 17, still that big swath, right? And they got affordable tickets. They got access to affordable tickets for this. I will tell you, there was definitely a price hike in the tickets for season ticket holders. But season ticket holders were available, or they did have the option of choosing their seats. They had first right of refusal to their seats for the playoff game. And even after that, so after they went through that first round of you're a season ticket holder, buy your season tickets if you want. After that first round went through, there were still tickets available. And again, I'm going to credit Texas here when they said, hey guys, they sent out an email to all season ticket holders. There are still available tickets. Now that the season ticket holders had their first come, first serve, we're going to give you guys another chance to buy extra tickets.
That's awesome.
So if there are any left over, it ain't because Texas didn't give Texas fans an opportunity to purchase them, right? So again, guys, show up if you can, be there loud and proud. DCare is going to be rocking. It'll be exciting.
It's going to be fun. It's historic having a home playoff game. And we know there's 4 of them next weekend, Friday night, and then 3 on Saturday. So we will be watching all of those games. Well, from the tailgate, and then have to rewatch it really later because we're the afternoon game and there's the morning game. All right. So it's gonna be fun. There's lots to talk about. So next week we will talk a lot more Clemson, Texas. Really start looking at the Clemson roster, the Texas roster. There's no injury availability reports, injury reports for this because we're out of SEC play, but we can kind of get on some Clemson boards and see what their roster is looking like, if there's any major injuries or things that can keep them from. I know they lost one big receiver. I need to go look, but they lost a significant contributor in their last in their championship game. So I need to go look back at all that and see where they are and look at that line, keep following that line.
That is true. Yeah. And again, so what the next couple of weeks coming up, leading up to that playoff game, first ever in DKR, we will be talking about matchups, how the offense matches up with the defense on both sides, interesting storylines. We'll keep an eye on those injury reports. And of course, as always, we would love to hear y'all's conversations. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your contributions. We love it when everybody joins in. So on that note, we appreciate you for joining us. As always, please make sure that you like and subscribe. Again, we are Fire the Cannon. We're doing this on our own, and it helps. Every like and subscription helps with us. So again, on YouTube, we are Fire the Cannon Podcast. On Instagram and on Twitter, we are Fire the Cannon and #1. I'm Texas Fancy Boots. She's Rocky Knows Best. And for now, y'all, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon. Hook 'em, y'all.